So it's an earlier relative of T-Rex, and as you say, it was about 10 million years earlier than that. And but already at this time, it had many of the features that made T-Rex such a formidable predator. So it had a very strong skull with a wide back of the skull and a narrow snout, and it had forward-facing eyes, which gave it binocular vision. Now, this is actually quite important because it allows it to have depth perception, and that's one of the things that made T-Rex such a precision hunter, really.
Let me just clarify too the size of this creature.
So T-Rex was a bit bigger. T-Rex would have been about 12 metres in length, about 6.8 tonnes, but Lythronax was about 8 metres in length, about 2.5 tonnes, so slightly smaller.
Still a very large creature.
Enormous.
With big teeth.
And they are essentially, or they were, I should say, killing machines.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, they're definitely precision predators. So, there have been about 30 species found in the wider Tyrannosaur group now that were all predators, but quite a wide range of body forms. So some of the earlier species were actually much smaller carnivores, and they would have been about 1 to 3 meters in length. Some of them had longer arms and long fingers. Some of them had head crests. But yes, all precision hunters.
So conditions were obviously very favourable for this particular species at that point in time.
Well, actually, I mean, they're a wide family of animals, and we're talking about a long period of time as well. The earliest tyrannosaur relatives appeared in the mid-Jurassic, and then they were around for about 100 million years until the late Jurassic, which is when T-Rex itself was around.
What does this tell us about that era? And paleontologists are obviously also talking about why there have been so many species at one particular time. One theory being that sea levels were much higher, and much of the parts of particularly the United States, or North America I should say, was underwater at the time, and that actually isolated many species.
Well, yeah, definitely. At this time, 80 million years ago, sea levels were a lot higher, and there was a seaway running right down the middle of North America, from the Arctic Ocean to the Gulf of Mexico. And this meant that there were more isolated places, more islands, more regions for species to develop in isolation. But I don't know whether this new discovery really tells us a lot about the world at this time. What it does tell us is a little bit about the T-Rex family tree, and the fact that this species was so similar to T-Rex, but it's one of the oldest close relatives of T-Rex in North America at this time, tells us that the family tree is a little bit more complicated than we thought. It suggests that actually the different body shapes were all around at this earlier time, and that suggests that there were probably quite a few more Tyrannosaur species to be discovered in North America.
Because there's also been a bit of contention as to whether or not the species originates from North America or Asia. So is this now sort of leaning a bit more towards the thought that North America is where this species originates?
I don't think so, because the oldest tyrannosaurs are from China. So there have been a whole large number of small tyrannosaur species found from China in recent years. There were 6 species found alone in 2010. So it suggests that the oldest species came from there. And the interesting thing is that some of these older species were feathered. So a species called Dilong, discovered in 2004, had a downy covering of what are called proto-feathers. But there was a much more exciting discovery last year, a species called Eutyrannus, which is really quite a large tyrannosaur. It was about 9 metres long, about 1.5 tonnes, and that was covered in proto-feathers as well. So that hints that maybe even T-Rex had feathers.
The fact that these lasted for millions of years, these species, is that unprecedented in the history of the world?
Well, so a lot of these species would have been appearing and then going extinct. So even though tyrannosaur species are known from 100 million years, there would have been a big turnover of species over this whole time. So, I mean, it's not uncommon for species to appear in the fossil record for 3 million years at a time, or longer sometimes. So, yeah.
Now, we didn't really have any T-Rexes here in Australia, did we, until the exhibition, which is coming up. So for those of us in Australia who are interested in having a look, we might be able to get the chance to have a look at some of what these specimens were like.
Well, it sounds like a really exciting exhibition that's coming to the Australian Museum. They're going to have about 8 different species on display, and they're going to have one of the very earliest Tyrannosaurs guanlong, which is the Chinese species from about, I think, 125 or 160 million years ago.